The Prime Minister is to personally lobby President Trump to rejoin ceasefire talks between Israel and Hamas. Keir Starmer is going to meet President Trump in Scotland tomorrow as part of the President's 5-day visit to his golf courses. The Americans left negotiations in Qatar on Thursday. The President's Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff blamed Hamas for not wanting a deal, as he put it. Meanwhile, Israel's military says it has made several drops of aid packages into Gaza and will re-establish humanitarian corridors. But Israeli military sources have also told the New York Times there's no proof that Hamas steals UN aid, a key pillar of their argument for taking over the aid distribution process. Let's get the latest on the situation on the ground in Gaza. Richard Spencer is the Times' foreign correspondent joining us from Beirut. Richard, good morning.
Good morning. What
is the latest situation? Because there is confusion, recrimination. In all of this, the Gazan innocent civilians are suffering here.
So there does seem to be a bit of a climb down overnight from Israel. We've heard about these airdrops that they announced would start on Friday, and indeed they do seem to have started last night. That, of course, isn't the answer to the problem by sort of most people's agreement. The answer is to start getting these convoys of aid from the crossing points, from the warehouses where they're being stored into the places where people need them. And that seems to have started. There's more aid going in now from the UN. The Israelis seem to have opened humanitarian corridors where they say they're not going to operate militarily. And there are also reports from Egypt that the border crossing between Egypt and the Gaza Strip, which is controlled by Israel, has also been opened, and the aid is going through from there. So the Israelis do seem to have backed down and accepted that they can do more to get aid into Gaza.
So this is a major shift, as you say, over a very short period of time. Why do you think it has happened now? Is it international pressure?
Oh, I think it is. Even they can't ignore the photographs that are appearing in the national papers in every country in the world. They also have this political pressure that is coming as Macron meets Starmer, with Starmer under pressure to recognise the Palestinian state, which Macron, as you just reported, said he was going to do at the United Nations later this year. So there's a lot of political pressure growing. And as you also reported, one of the pillars of their argument over aid does seem to be crumbling. They have always said that Hamas was looting aid and that was the problem, and that's why they had to restrict supplies. But if you add to the report that came from the New York Times that you referred to about Israeli officials saying they no longer, or military officials saying they don't think this is true, a leaked report from the US government's own aid agency, USAID, for a couple of days ago said the same thing, so that it didn't think that US aid had been stolen by Hamas, although there was no concrete evidence of that. So I think those two sort of pincers, if you like, on the Israeli position have had an effect.
UNRWA is a controversial agency. We know that UNRWA operatives were involved in the 7th of October. A small number were sacked, and a few of them were, of course, accused of that as well. Certainly the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation is a controversial agency as well. In terms of the practicalities of this, there's a lot of rowing, there's a lot of change, there's a movement certainly in Israel's position. In terms of aid getting to people, it does seem as if that is in a better position today than it was 24 hours ago.
Well, I think it's a bit. It's not great, obviously. Gaza needs, by the UN's tally, 500 to 600 trucks of aid getting in a day, food supplies, just to keep people alive and healthy, and some medical supplies as well. Until a few days ago, it was getting in hardly any. There was a blockade between March and May, which of course had two effects. Which was to obviously weaken the population greatly, and second was to sort of make it unusable some of the aid routes and aid distribution methods. The kitchens and bakeries that have been used to provide meals for people inside Gaza had closed down, and then when aid did start up again, when the blockade was lifted, when GHF moved in, their system never really got off the ground. It took time to get off the ground, and of course the UN was facing very severe restrictions. So that's why you saw these horrific images coming out in the last week of malnourished children. In the last 2 or 3 days, for example, 158 trucks got through on Wednesday, about half that on Thursday, and about the same again, 150 again, I think, on Friday. I haven't seen that figure confirmed, but roughly that. So there's been a marginal improvement since these pictures started to appear, and then again more today with this international pressure starting to mount.
Where are we in terms of any form of diplomacy, any form of movement to peace, to the release of the hostages, to the end of this horrific war? We know that those negotiations have broken down in Qatar. We know that Starmer is going to put pressure on Trump. Just what is your assessment of that, Richard?
Yeah, as with so many things about this conflict, it depends who you believe. So there was a resumption of negotiations through these intermediaries, Qatar, Egypt, and the United States, for a ceasefire in the last week. Hamas and Israel both put forward proposals. The first Hamas proposal was rejected pretty much outright by not only Israel, but by the negotiators, the intermediaries said this isn't enough. The second one was put forward to Israel, and Israel said it was withdrawing its negotiators for consultation. America said these Hamas statements were ridiculous and couldn't be operated on and weren't acting in good faith, and have withdrawn their negotiators. Now, the captors in Egypt are saying, well, hang on. We're not sure that's what's really going on here. We think that there's, consultations on the points that these two sides have in common, but there are clearly differences between them. Israel claims that the clamour over recognition of Palestine and over the aid has hardened Hamas's position, that they think they can hang on longer while the world is distracted and try and get more concessions. So that's the Israeli position. Hamas say they've made a good faith offer.
Richard, thank you. That's Richard Spencer there, the Times' foreign correspondent. Thanks for joining us on Times Radio Breakfast.